Good morning again. My name is Sampson, and I'm very pleased to be with you again. We're continuing our sessions on figuring out how to paint in an impressionistic style. Today I have a real treat for you, a picture I took in Kalam in the Utror Valley with some birches. It's got lovely light and dark, perfect for learning the risky business of putting pure color notes onto the canvas, broken color, rather than just painting as if you were painting a wall. Couple of things that are helpful to remember. Painting is all about the light. If you want to paint a picture, there must be contrast, light and shadow, rather like the light on my face. This feels like 3 dimensions, super important. The other thing is, go for simplicity. So much of our life is wasted by details, and the same would be true of painting. When we paint well, we're painting simply, light and dark, contrast. And so, today, a real challenge, and one I think you'll enjoy: birch trees in Kalam. Let's get started. So here's our picture for the day. The most important thing to start well in an oil painting is to look, to observe carefully. Is that the shapes, it's all about the shapes are connected, and that there's a strong contrast between the light, the dark, and the middle values. A very good practice for visualizing what you're going to paint is to do what's called a notan. A notan is a short, simple, very quick sketch in pencil or charcoal, extremely small, maybe just 3 by 3 inches, and just very quickly get a feel for where the main parts of the picture are going. So I'm outlining the lighter part of the picture, and then try to really simplify and make it clear in your mind where the darks are. And then, if you can, a little bit of hints of some of the shade. The middle value. If you can make a little notan, a notation of what the darks and the lights are going to be like in a picture before you paint it, very often you will have solved the most difficult part of the whole painting. And there you have it. So first, the charcoal sketch. What we're sketching is the shadows, the light and the dark. We're not sketching the details. The details can come in with your brush later. So very simply, try to catch a feel of the sweep. One of the nice things about this is the lovely diagonals. And before we begin any painting, you need to think about which colors you want to use. Remember, the fewer the colors, the more limited the palette, the easier it is to paint, and often it works together in a much better way. The darks are kind of obvious here. Burnt umber, ultramarine blue is your standard go-to dark. It's not black. and you can vary it slightly to make it more luminous. Obviously there's a wide range of greens here. So greens are lemon yellow, ultramarine blue. So we need, the colors that we need for this painting are going to be definitely those three. That would almost do it, except for you'll also notice there are quite a lot of grays. And to get the gray, yellow, blue, red, and you can vary that in wide range. So you'll need 4 paints, 4 colors to complete this painting. So we're ready to begin. Again, remind yourself of the painting that's before us, and we're going to start, the rule is start dark and go light. Or sometimes we do it the other way around, but almost always it's best to start with the darks. Focus should be fuzzy in your, squint your eyes and see where those darks are. Almost the whole of the top, 2/3 of the painting is dark. It's not the final color, this is the blocking in, the basic intention of the painting, the dark part of the painting, is made by simplifying. So we've already learnt burnt sienna, ultramarine blue is a lovely luminous dark color. Because this is the back end of our painting, the start of our painting, our other rule was to go from thin to thick. So squirt some of your, whatever you're using for your solvent, into that. And we're using big brushes. If we start using small brushes, you'll lose the nice balance and simplicity of it. So these are 6s, size 6 brushes, and all you have to do is get a nice loose, this is not quite loose enough, you don't really want it too thick at this point. A nice loose dark. You're holding the brush lightly, not tightly, you'll get painterly brush strokes. At this stage, the painting looks a little scary, doesn't it? Like, how's this going to work? Remember, we're simplifying. You've got a choice here. You can either go with whites or with greens. It doesn't really matter which way you go. The whites and the grays are more in the foreground, so I'm going to be tempted to go with the greens. You'll notice in this picture, and the pictures are always a very poor representation of what nature has, you'll see very, very yellowy, very dark greens, and some in between. So you need a range of greens to mix those on the palette. And again, simplify I've cleaned the palette off. You just need a bit of boldness. Don't be shy of using a lot of paint. And just experiment with these pure color notes. So even a little bit of blue will change the green quite markedly. So I've got 3 there. I really want 4, so this one's going to be, notice I picked up some of the blue on the yellow, which will spoil the yellow for later on, so I'm going to scrape that off in a bit. So I've got a range of 3. One thing you can do is you can also take a color. Of course, it won't be so brilliant. You can take a color like yellow straight and add a little touch of white, and you've got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a range of 5 here. Now to do this again, you need to be bold. And then it's a matter of slowly building up and heading towards the light green. So just go through the sequence, keep the brush clean so that you get nice clean color notes between. It's best in an oil painting to do everything at once and not focus too much on one thing at a time. So we're going to come back to the greens in more detail, but let's go for the trees. You'll notice at the back of the painting, the picture, these trees are very indistinct and dull color, and then some standouts occur, and then you get these very bright ones. So we're going to need a range of grays. You can pick up the color that you were using at the beginning, alizarin and brown, and you can play with that to get a range. Or alternatively, you can make the grey from the raw pigments, which is a lot nicer, a nicer variety of hues and brighter colors. And the trick with getting that grey is just to keep on playing with the ratio. If it's too purple, add more yellow. If it's too brown, it means you've got too much yellow and red. Add a little bit more blue. So that's getting there. So a little bit on the purple side. I can probably see the color more clearly than you can. So then you can gray it down. So I'm getting now a range of grays that are going to be used for this painting, and ending up with white. So you need some that are far away. Remember, from aerial perspective of the first lesson, far away is blue. So we want those far away, more bluey colored trees and quite indistinct, something like that. So I'm starting to get a range, and I'll keep playing with those grays as the painting develops. Probably not so much with the palette knife, but using the brush directly. So let's start with those far away little guys. So one of the features of this painting is the lovely bark on the silver birch. And to do the bark justice, again, we need a nice wide range of colors to play with. And you'll notice there's everything in the bark, from some very dark spots to bright highlights. If you use white for those highlights, it won't be very warm. You have to add either a little tiny bit of red or a little tiny bit of yellow to get those highlights. You'll see some browns, a wide range of subtle colors here, and it feels rounded. You can achieve this effect quite simply by using your spotlight eyes to add the color that you want in impressionistic style. To do that, you might want to switch to a smaller brush. This is a number 2 brush that works well for this next phase. So we're looking to try and get the rounded and mottled effects. One thing you'll notice in the reference photo are the light is actually coming through. It's coming through in various spots, and these are called light holes, and painting them adds a real spark to a painting. To do them, you need to mix a nice blue and quite a careful location of where these light holes are. Will change your painting quite markedly. Remember, one of the rules is not to do regular. Don't make these even. In fact, they're quite uneven in nature, and if you make them regular and even, they will appear weird. Okay, you've reached the stage of the painting where you've done the basic, you've blocked in the basics. The next bit is the most fun. It's using your creativity to add those bright impressionistic colors. We're going to go back to the greens towards the end, but also look and see for any other colors that you can spot within the painting itself, within the picture, and then exaggerate them. The human eye can spot them a lot better than a photograph can. For instance, I'm seeing some quite warm reds in this area here. Just add them as a color note. Don't try and make it even. So now we're adding kind of splotches of color within, and it could be a dark note or a light note. we're starting to develop the texture and the colors in a way that will make the painting come alive. Alright, I think it's time to mix some greens again. Coming back with the lightest greens. And using the palette knife. The palette knife forces you to use bright, irregular, impressionistic style, but don't overdo it. If it can look kind of mechanical. So here we go, just here and there. Constantly assessing your painting and seeing what's needed. My trees are not really that 3D. I'm going to 3D them a bit. The last thing to do is to add the super bright highlights here and there. And we have lemon yellow, which is a bit cool. Normally I would use cadmium yellow for the really brights, but we're limiting our palette to the lemon yellow. Load the brush. Look for the places where there's just a really bright especially show up if there's a bright contrast. And there you have it. You're ready to sign your impressionistic birch tree painting from Swat. Find a color that's a contrast to where you want to do your signature.